By the end of this video, I think we will all agree that old school chess is way better than new school chess. This game is an absolute masterpiece played by Alexei Shirov. He took down Kramnik in this game, and he quite literally played so tactically that it broke Kramnik's brain. So, you might have a headache at the end of this game too. The year is 1994. You look left. There's no gender neutral bathrooms. You look right. No singular person weighs more than a semi-truck. You look straight. Balkan Dad Chess is not yet speaking on the internet. Life is pretty good. But it's round 12. Linares. Let's get into it. We get knight f3 featured in today's world championship game by Gukesh. It's so funny. It's always like, crazy game. It was a crazy game. World championship match. Crazy game. Oh, what was the result? It was a draw. Okay, thank you. And then when they draw in 10 moves, it's like strategic draw so that they have energy to play crazy game tomorrow. But y'all can go to the relevant people for those recaps. This is why it's good to be a nobody, because I don't got to look over those draws. I get to look over these games, so joke's on them. We get pawn to c6. It's going to be a little bit of a calmer opening, but I promise you the middle game and end game will not disappoint. Okay, queen to b6. What should white do here? Well, queen takes queen is ill-advised because black will get the open A file. These are not such bad doubled pawns because they're not isolated. So white instead goes for the move c5, an extension, but actually not an overextension. You're going to gain some tempo, right? Because if queen takes queen, vice versa, then last position, now white has the open A file, and they're going to skillfully undouble their pawns, right? In a6, the pawn will always be pinned. Once the pawns are undoubled, the pawns are undoubled, and it's a good queenside attack. So the queen retreats to c7, bishop to f4. Is that the first blunder of the game? No. Why can't you take this bishop? If you take this bishop, you lose this pawn, and that is a rook. So a bigger threat is on the board if you take that bishop. So we got queen to c8. And just looking at this position, it looks, don't look at the bar, it looks like white is doing better, as you can see by the bar. But no, this is theory. See, this queen is blocking the queen side attack, and white is going to attack on the queen side, right? This pawn chain faces the queen side, but he's going to need a wasted tempo, right? He's going to need to move the queen to push the pawn. And in the time that it takes him to move the queen, both black's knights get out, and he's catching up in development. We get pawn to b4, and now pawn to a6. Pawn to b5 is no nuisance of a move because we are not pinned. The queen is skillfully on the 8th rank. Also on the light square. Very nice. All right, pawn to h3. What's the point of this move? Well, the point of this move is if you don't play it, let's say you play bishop e2, you're going to need to deal with knight h5. And black will be very happy to trade. One, because he's cramped. Two, because that is a pest of a dark squared bishop. And then the other knight can get to f6. Less pieces on the board, less cramped you are. That is not what happened. We get pawn h3, bishop to e7, and queen back to b3, opening up the route for the a pawn to now move. Black castles, white goes bishop e2, so it's going to be positional before it becomes tactical, but positional chess can be fun too. Bishop to e4, we get castles, takes, because trades help the player that's cramped, and then bishop to d8. Bishop to d8 looks like a weird move, but it's all about the questions you ask yourself, right? I'm sure Shirov here was like, what trades would I be happy with? What trades are feasible? And then he came up with the answer of dark squared bishops. You would be happy trading these dark squared bishops because white's bishop is more active than your bishop on e7. So the point of bishop to d8 is to route over to c7 to counterclaim this diagonal. White does avoid the trade, but after h6, he's not forced to take the knight, but he chooses to take the knight. See, since he went pawn to h3, creating that luft for the bishop to retreat to, now you don't have the option or you don't have the luxury of going bishop to h4 because after g5, you're going to need to take with the f pawn, and this e3 pawn is rendered weak. So he snaps off the knight. Black is happy because he's less cramped, and white strikes with b5, so he has counterplay. So white strike was fast. What's another principle in chess? When your opponent strikes on one end of the board, you strike on the other. So e5, skillfully timed. And with this pawn structure, It's known that you need to go e5 or c5 in the middle game to create counterplay, control the center. Since white went c5, that leaves black with e5, so it makes his option easier. Pawn to b6. Here you can play a switch. It's recommended, but let's chastise the engine. Let's not allow the engine to chastise this beautiful game. We get bishop to b8 sliding back, and now pawn to a5, locking everything up here on the queen side. Pawn takes pawn, and bishop to f4. Okay, what did it want here? It wanted the move h5. And you might say, why does it want h5? Well, because after bishop to f4, g3, you create an escape square for your bishop to go to h6. But we get bishop f4, queen c2 backing up, and now queen to d7. Again, it really wanted h5, but had h5 been played, this gem of a game would not have been played. So I'm happy he played queen d7. Top level chess. This is what we want to see. g3, queen takes h3. The pawn is pinned, so if pawn takes pawn, we get queen takes bishop. Let me know, do arrows suffice, or would you guys like me to play through the variations? I could do either. I think I should do, which did I say first? The latter? I think I should do the latter. Bishop to g2, saving the bishop. We get queen to h5. Kramnik wins a piece, but Shirov threatens mate in 1. Kramnik was a world champion, so he goes rook f to d1. And a lot of people don't like Kramnik right now, and I understand why. He's turning into the boy who cried wolf, accusing everybody. But bringing cheating to the forefront of chess was very important. So I'm glad there was a figure like that, because people do cheat. And if you don't cheat and you have a clear conscience, who cares if you get accused of cheating? Okay, rook a to e8. You might say, why didn't he throw in the check first? And think of it like an endgame. You're putting the enemy king in a box, so if you envision a rook not on e8, this king can march over to the queen side and escape. However, that is not possible when the rook is on e8, so he chooses that first. Kramnik rook lifts. Now he throws in the check because the box has been created, and then he plays f5, trying to rook lift. This is an interesting move order, right? You might say rook to h3, but rook to h3 is not great because of queen takes f4. So what do we get? We get queen to d2, a sensible move guarding the pawn, and now rook to f6. Now you might be like, surely he played rook h3 and trapped the queen. Not so simple. The point of rook to f6 was to go rook to g6. Now it might look like a free queen, but it is not, right? The king cannot go to the e file, and when it steps on the g file, you get forked, and now all of a sudden black is up material out of nowhere. So rather than going rook to h3, we get pawn to f3, threatening the knight. And in this position, Shirov's beauty starts shining. Rook to e4. You're like, what? How do you even think of this move? I wonder if he saw this from a distance. Like, I wonder at what point he saw this, because it's an incredible move. The point is, well, if you take the knight, then we're going to get rook takes pawn. And essentially, white is going to either lose the bishop and get checkmated, or go king e1 and get checkmated, or lose an abundance of material. If pawn takes, okay, this is possible, but you would need to find the move knight e2, at which point black takes the rook, and it's very complicated. To prove to you that Kramnik was no scrub, no, we're going to go back. Oh, I hope nobody clicks off, but if you do, you're going to miss gold. So let's go back. Boop, boop, boop. We're testing who has goldfish brain and who does not have goldfish brain. So if you stick around, props to you. You're a good guy or gal. So knight takes pawn. Brilliancy. So it was the best move. What is the point of this move? Well, the point of this move is that after black takes the knight, it was a clearance sacrifice done by white to then create a passed pawn. All right, we're back. Create a passed pawn. Now, what does Shirov do? Well, he takes the pawn. It's up to white now. Does he push? Does he take? Which way is it better to be one away from promoting? It's better to take, because if you push, the rook will come to f8, and the queen is easily stopped. If you take, your other rook that's not in the game gets activated, and you can envision a position with rook to c8 check, rook f8, and then you promote the pawn. You create a shield for it. And we get rook back to e4. Brilliant. Again, if pawn takes pawn, we would get pawn takes pawn. The king is in check. After the king moves, say it moves to e1, we're going to get mated with king to g1, queen to g1, and if king e2, we have rook to f2. And what happens if this? Well, it is certainly no better. All major pieces doing its job. Not to mention, look at this queen seeing b8. Amazing. Amazing coordination. He really knew the board was a square. So we get rook back to e4. The queen now sees b8 again. We get rook to c1, trying to give a check and promote the pawn. So king to h7, prophylactic. White makes a queen because Kramnik didn't know what to do here. I mean, are we getting mated? Are we not getting mated? I also wonder how much time he burned on the clock because, you know, the board is like a engine. It's like a moving system. You take one part, you move one part, everything collapses. So at certain points, he's like, wait, can I take the knight now? Can I take the rook now? It takes time to calculate these types of things. He makes a queen, getting black's queen out, which then opens g1. See, so now the pawn can take the knight because after check, the king would just hide safely on g1. So what does Shirov do? He recreates the box. Queen to h2. Kramnik goes rook to f3, getting rid of the discovered check, avoiding any mates, and Shirov takes the pawn with the rook. Now here, the only move for advantage is rook f2. Kramnik underestimated that pushing the pawn was not great because of rook to g6, and now there's 3 people on the bishop. We get rook to c2, takes, take with the rook, of course, rook takes, and now do not go queen to b8 and allow them to save this pawn. Go queen to h1. Because if the rook goes to g1, you just take the rook on f3. So the king has to move, and now you get behind the passed pawn, queen to b1. In this position, Kramnik resigned. You might say, was that premature? I don't think so. Black has a lot of pawns. If rook to g3, you could just snag this guy. Rook takes, queen takes. After some quick math, black has double the amount of pawns as white. And there's really nothing else. If rook takes, you can't even do that because queen takes check, and then you'll get to the pawn. So an amazing game by Shirov. Thank you for who commented to look at Shirov's game based off yesterday's modern day Tal video. I think we're going to call Shirov the semi-modern day Tal because he was born in the 70s. Comment down below who you want to see next. I'm going to do a Dubov game. Thank you guys as always for watching. Have a great day. Boom.